Have you ever wondered why our ancestors wrapped themselves in silk, linen, gold, and gemstones? It wasn't vanity, it was science, it was spiritual technology. You see, natural fabrics like silk and linen don't just clothe you, they carry frequency. Linen vibrates so high, it can raise your body's energy field just by touching your skin. Silk, it's like a shield, holding your life force close, protecting it from outside interference. These weren't just garments, they were wearable prayers. And then came the metals, gold to align you with the sun's life-giving force, copper to balance the flow of energy through your body, silver to harmonize your spirit with the moon. Every chain, every plate, every detail was placed with intention, creating circuits of power right on the body. The jewels? Each stone carried its own code: turquoise for protection, ruby for courage, emerald for heart healing. Our people wore them over key points of the body to direct that energy into the spirit. They knew that what you wear could heal you, protect you, and speak to the unseen. It wasn't just style. It was a living, breathing connection to the earth, the stars, and the divine. Now I ask you, if you dressed with that kind of intention today, what kind of power would you call into your life? Follow, like, comment, and share so together we can remember the truth they tried to make us forget.
For Hurston, you had to jump off the high dive. If you were going to study hoodoo or voodoo, you had to do it from the inside. And so she went through at least 4 initiation rituals.
One hoodoo doctor asked her to chase down a black cat in the night, boil it in a cauldron, and suck on its bones. Another had her lie naked and fasting for 69 hours, experiencing strange and altered dreams. The ceremony ended with the painting of a red and yellow lightning bolt down her back.
That she succeeded is a testament to her resilience, her willingness to do whatever she had to do to get her work done.
I am getting on in the conjure splendidly. I've been going to everyone I hear of for the sake of thoroughness. I am knee-deep in it, with a long way to go.
Minala said she had plans to go to foreign, and in Canada she want to go.
I have never met this man before.
He's a spiritualist. A spiritualist is a person that sometimes they can see past, present, and futuristic events. A lot of people bring people to me and say, Father, tell this person something about himself. He's very sick and he can't sleep at night and so and so. And then say, I don't be upon him also. And then me look at me and say, no, I don't be upon him. People come and then carry back alcoholics buckle full of worm. Those are the kind of things me do. Me heal people. Me wet up enough people in my yard all the while when they come and say, I want to do so and so, I want to mash up Sierra, I want to mash up Tom. I wet him up and run him out of my yard and say, I don't mash up people. I build people, I help people, and that God give me gift to do. Me's not a hobby man. Me's a spiritualist. Or some people that say scientist.
Imagine a ceremony so powerful it unleashed the first flames of liberation.
And a man who rose from enslavement to become the spark of a revolution.
Welcome to ASMR A to Z. We've been slowly making our way through this encyclopedia of African religion from A to Z.
We're nearly finished with B. Today we're talking about Bookman, better known as Dottie Bookman, the voodoo priest who helped ignite the Haitian Revolution.
Before we begin, we need to clear something up. Voodoo is often painted as dark, dangerous, or even evil, and that's simply not true.
Voodoo is a spiritual system deeply rooted in African traditions. It's about honoring ancestors, healing, protection, and building community.
We've made plenty of videos on this already, which you can find on our page.
So, Bookman was originally from Senegambia in West Africa, enslaved and taken first to Jamaica. He eventually arrived in Saint Domingue, what we now call Haiti. There, he became both a commandeer, a driver on the plantation, and later a coachman. These roles gave him unusual influence and connections across the colony. But more than that, Bookman was a Hogan, a voodoo priest respected for his power and presence.
On the night of August 14, 1791, Bookman led a voodoo ceremony in the thick forest of Bois Cayman. With him was the Mambo, Cecile Fetzman. Together, they invoked the spirits calling on a Zulu dantor and delivered a message that would change history.
Bookman's prayer called on the enslaved to reject the gods of their colonizer, the god that had sanctioned their suffering, and instead turn to the God who lived within them, the God who created the sun, the storms and seas, the God who called them to rise and take back their freedom.
That night, the enslaved swore an oath of rebellion, and within days, the plantations of the north were in flames, and the Haitian Revolution had begun. The revolution he helped spark would go on to defeat the greatest empires of the age, giving birth to the first independent Black Republic.
And this is why voodoo has been so heavily demonized ever since, because it represents power, resistance, and the spiritual force behind the Haitian Revolution.
The first and most successful uprising of enslaved people to create a free nation.
If you've enjoyed this and want to go deeper,
check out our Patreon where we put all the information from this series into digestible, easy to read PDF.
Join us next time for the next entry of ASMR A to Z.
Because yes, we really are reading the whole book,
page by page,
for you. Follow for more.
When they couldn't kill the body, they went after the spirit. The first thing they did was turn our protectors into demons. Ogun became Satan. Yemaya became a sea witch. Obeah became a curse word. But ask yourself, and who told you that? There were actual campaigns to erase African spirituality from the soul. They knew if you feared your own power, you'd never use it again. But our ancestors still remembered. Bookman used Vodou to spark revolution. Nanny of the Maroons chanted to the hills. Makandal whispered to plants and spirits alike. This wasn't darkness. This was resistance. So they built churches on top of our sacred grounds and told us to kneel to names that once enslaved us. But now the spell is breaking. Your ancestors were never evil. They were just too powerful for the system to control. Episode 2, Demonized by Design. Spirits, gods, and forbidden power. The truth they buried. A Mystery Vault 62.
Honor, respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. May 23rd and May 24th, Saturday and Sunday, May 23rd and May 24th, 2026. New Orleans International Voodoo Day promises an inspiring and immersive experience with a diverse lineup of engaging events. Highlights include an educational symposium featuring distinguished speakers from around the world, including a delegation of scholars and spiritual leaders from Benin and Haiti, as well as art exhibitions showcasing voodoo-inspired works by talented local and international artists. The event will also feature a children's program and an Afroecology exhibit exploring the sacred nature of plants in voodoo, their role in spiritual practices, and their connection to our ancestors. The weekend will culminate in a ceremonial procession to 9 significant locations in the city, locations where the enslaved were brought ashore, held, auctioned, and where they later found community and created culture. This journey will begin at the transatlantic slave route to New Orleans marker on the moonwalk at the river just behind Jackson Square and conclude with a traditional voodoo ceremony at Congo Square. Additionally, visitors can participate in interactive workshops, community discussions, and opportunities to connect with practitioners and cultural experts. This multifaceted experience is designed to create uh, a healing space, a sacred healing space, as well as provide an opportunity to educate and re-educate people about our history and certainly about the history of voodoo. We continue to invite you to participate by visiting us at www.vodouday.org. Again, www.voodooday.org. For more information, please, we ask you to participate, volunteer, donate, sponsor, support, show your love, and certainly promote this powerful event. And we're grateful for your continued support and participation nightly at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday weeknights on a social media network near you or by way of our StreamYard link. We're certainly grateful for your continued support, love, and participation in our live chat. Greetings and salutations, Daniel Neal, a faithful member of our community. We certainly appreciate your continued support. And we will be unmuting our beloved co-host momentarily, the beloved Bianca Johnson-Plessy, a member of La Source and a faithful team member for NOIVD. Our beloved Joshua Nylan Tanner, my armor bearer, first priest, and wild man for Black Hawk Voodoo, and faithful member and co-administrator for NOIVD. Our beloved Elder Reggie, known on this platform as Green Soap, the leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, and a faithful administrator and member of NOIDB. And of course, I am the Divine Prince, Pan-African Spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur, co-administrator and administrative secretary for NOIVD, and a faithful initiated member of La Source on 4. We are also reminding you of our coming event, All Saints Day and All Saints and All Souls Day are known throughout the world, and particularly the Catholic world, for showing honor and homage to those who've gone before. But we in Haitian voodoo culture, as well as Louisiana voodoo culture, honor and acknowledge the Day of the Dead, or Fête Gede celebration on November 1st. We will be at the New Orleans Healing Center, 2372 St. Claude Avenue at St. Roch and St. Claude, November 1st. Oh, well, I don't know why I got 2024 on there. Nobody saw that. 2025, November 1st, 2025, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. At the New Orleans Healing Center, 2372 St. Claude Avenue. There will be libations offered on a donation-based bar at 5 to 7. And then we will begin our formal ritual ceremony at 7 to 10. and then have a procession from the front door or the main lobby of the Healing Center to the corner of Span and St. Roch to honor and acknowledge those who've gone before in our uh, symbolic cemetery, if you will, where we have our ark, our boat ark that was dedicated to those who transpired during the horrific Hurricane Katrina events of 2005. So, in keeping with our conversation about acknowledging and showing honor to the ancestors and those who came before, we want to continue our conversation to now, specifically tonight, about ancestral inheritance, that ancestral memory, which science has now demonstrated survives in our blood and can survive at least 11 generations. So often, our sense of favor, our taste for hot or cold, sweet, sour, spicy, are not always predicated on our own experience, certainly for newborns, infants, and children, but are a product of ancestral memory that survives in the blood, at least 11 generations. Certainly, we are going to also discuss shadow work and generational curses and soul ties and soul entanglements, and breaking those ties and entanglements, and maybe even a brief discussion about Haints, a term that comes from the old school hoodoo practice and tradition. And we'll discuss a bit about what Haints are, how to deal with Haints, how Haints are created, and the possibility of Haints also having a connection to soul ties, soul entanglements, and quite possibly generational activity passed down through ancestral memory. I know, and I've mentioned in previous podcasts, my first memory as a toddler, I don't know, I was 2 or 3, was of a discussion about voodoo in Louise, Mississippi. We would have our family reunions really the whole month of July, but it would kick off, the 4th of July weekend, and family would travel down from Chicago and California and other parts of the U.S., and we'd gather and celebrate, and certainly we'd play dominoes and bid whist and fish and barbecue and hunt, and the kids would have free reign, of the dirt road. There wasn't much traffic to be thought of, at that time, and even now, there isn't much traffic, vehicular traffic going through this part of the Mississippi Delta, and we had our own private road that led into what was known as the quarter. Many of you have a quote unquote quarter in your family background. And so the kids would have free reign, and, fireworks back then were, I don't know, $2 for, I don't know, 100, and families would compete, certainly coming from the north, to the south to provide and entertain, the village, and these hardworking parents would, buy fireworks and toys and candy, and we'd really have a great time. But I would always find myself at the knee of the elders. Cousin Hadel, would walk me through the garden and show me what was fruiting and what was flowering, and what was new this year that she had planted. And I would eat and partake of every fruit, vegetable, herb, to nut, to be had. And then there was the card games and the adult conversations. And, I knew to keep my mouth closed because, once you opened your mouth, you got sent out the house and back out into the yard. So I would hang back and stay quiet and just kind of listen and absorb the adult conversation. And Uncle Nephus, my father's mother's uncle. So he would be what, my great uncle. They would often tell this story. Now he lived, in the back part of the quarter. I would say the furthest house back, though his house was connected to my aunt LV's main house. But they lived like right over the swamp, right at the edge of the swamp, and to some degree, like right over the swamp. And he had a candy store, and he sold popsicles and frozen treats and penny candy. And he was blind. He was always blind as long as I had been, alive. And according to the story, he had been blinded as a late teenager, I believe 18 or 19. And they were still working the cotton fields, though they were still working the cotton fields in the 1970s when we were going back and forth every summer for these family reunions. Many of our cousins were out of school and were picking cotton in June and July and coming back late, jumping off the pickup truck, having still, doing that sort of labor. But he, had some dealings with a woman, and I don't quite remember, the semantics of the dealings or what may have set her off. But the story was always that she put some sort of potion, some sort of voodoo in his hat, and he went back out into the cotton field. And certainly, you can't be in that blazing heat, without cover on your head. And he put that hat on, and the sweat would run, and he lost his sight. And that was the reasoning that, we grew up always hearing and understanding for, Uncle Nephus being blind. And so it ignited for me a curiosity in traditional African Aboriginal religious systems and practices. Certainly root work, hoodoo, conjure, were things that, I was familiar with long before my formal exposure to voodoo of any kind. And so we want to talk tonight about generational uh, lineage that is passed down through memory, certainly storytelling, but also activities, phenomenons, behaviors that show up in our bloodlines that are linked to ancestral inheritance and ancestral memory. And one more quick thing before I pass the mic. My father, which I have never put in a very positive light anytime I've mentioned him on the show, but was said to have been raised, him and a few of his other siblings, by their grandparents, so my great grandparents, and they were harsh according to the stories, even abusive according to the stories. And though the language wasn't used, they uh, gave the energy of sharecropping. There were uh, many children, siblings to my great grandfather, but then he and my great grandmother, had many children. And primarily the stories were about, 5-mile walks to school when there was school and picking cotton. And so the abuse, I believe, was passed down generationally in the blood memory uh, to my father, and quite possibly would have been passed down, to me or the sister that I grew up with in the house, had we not been the generational curse breakers. And there are many of you out there under the sound of my voice that, feel like the black sheep, been treated like the black sheep, as Sister Toni has shared on more than one occasion, her uh, indigenous family and attempted to kill her on more than one occasion, and then life steps in to block our paths and keep us from the fulfillment of our destiny. But we understand in traditional African based systems that destiny is pre-written, predetermined. And as hard and as challenging as it might sound to some of you, we predetermine our path in order to reach a higher goal. I would give nothing for my journey now, as the old folks used to say. What say you, Elder Reggie? Okay, let's give Elder Reggie a moment to come on in. Brother Joshua, Sister Bianca, please do unmute. Come on in. Elder Reggie, there you are. Come on in.
Yeah, thank you, Divine Prince, and peace to everyone in the collective audience. Brother Joshua, Sister Bianca, and Brother Divine Prince. What came to my mind was tonight I was just watching some of the stuff that's going on in Jamaica with Hurricane Melissa. And I know we done a ritual, but what came to my mind was when we was young and a hurricane was threatening and things of that nature, we would take salt, make a pile like a small hill, and take the cross, the red tip matches, and make a cross and set it on top of the salt, and we would pray. Back then, I didn't know any African chants of prayer, so only thing I had was the Christian way of prayer. But we would pray, and we would pray and ask for, you know, the weather to calm down, the eye of the storm to cease, and things of that nature. And I seen a guy today watching it. He was just praying the Lord's Prayer. And he was so sincere in Jamaica. He was just so sincere. And I found myself wishing that the winds would turn back from his prayer and dedication. But I wanted to share that because I'm pretty sure this falls under hoodoo, what we was doing back then.
And greetings and salutations to both Brother Joshua and Sister Bianca. Please unmute your mic and come on in.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing out there? I wanted to just talk about some different things that I do have some questions about, like just trying to get a better understanding on like generational curse and stuff. So what would be like an ideal of like generational curse? Because sometimes when I'm with my family, we talk about when we punish and chastise our kids and stuff, and we talk about whoopings and stuff. And I'm not really pretty much understanding that, because sometimes they say, oh, that's like a generational thing because it was passed down, like I guess because through slavery time we was whooped so much by our masters, and they see that as that's a sign of obeying, like to obey and listen. So that has always been passed down into our ancestors and our generation and stuff, and that's what we kind of use for our kids as a punishment or obeying. How do y'all feel about that? That's true, or is what is your answers for that?
I certainly agree with that. That was a part of the generational curse, the entanglement passed down from my grandparents, my great grandparents, you know, to my grandparents, to my father, and quite possibly to me. Again, if I wasn't as spiritually in tune and have done the degree of shadow work that I have done, I would be quite an angry, abusive, violent individual. And so I certainly believe that that is a product of soul entanglement, soul ties, or as we say, a generational curse that particularly plagues, though abuse does plague other households and other bloodlines and other lineages, but certainly for a different set of generational reasoning. But it's much easier for us to understand sort of the biological, scientific ramifications. We're quick to say, well, you know, they got sugar in my family. High blood pressure, is in my bloodline. But it's much more challenging, I think, when we have to look at ourselves and shadow work, and then the toxic reasoning often behind the shadow work. It's one thing to say, oh well, you were kids, just let that go. But often when it is a product of a entanglement, a generational curse, it's much deeper rooted and not as easy to shake or to let go. Even the as I like to say, the magical book in Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68, contains 53 verses listing various generational curses like poverty, hereditary disease, divorce, child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, alcoholism, drug addiction, immorality, adultery, perversion, depression, confusion, fear, indecision, panic attacks, mental illness, suicide, and destructive attitudes and behaviors. Now, certainly we can step outside of this sort of Abrahamic religious perspective of what we might consider to be a curse, though I doubt many of you would challenge many of those things that I just listed. But certainly these can also be present. And we often hear, a parent say, I don't know where my child, got that from. They didn't get it from me. And so, I'm triggered to question, uh, is it because the parent might be not self-aware, i.e., have not done any degree of shadow work? Because I believe you can't show honor and acknowledgement to the ancestors and those who came before without shadow work coming to the surface. Much like getting a divination done in Ifa or Fa or Dafa, um, you're not just getting a reading, it's a ceremony, it's a ritual process that is accompanied with ebo or sacrifice or homework, if you will, some adaptation to apply a fix, a repair, a cooling, to bring balance to a particular issue. So I certainly believe that it is a form of a generational curse that we have inherited from the brutality of enslavement and the Jim Crow era that subsequently followed. Um, you were much more likely to, take a switch to that leg, if your kids left the yard, if it meant that they were going to live to see the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, well said, Divine Prince. I would like to add one, and it's a colloquialism they still throw around sometimes. So you might have 3 to 4 families living in a project. And so a child, let's say a child is in 2nd grade, and then a next door neighbor might pass and say, "Oh, that child is bad in school, acting up." I'm not surprised. His mother got a project, his grandmother and his great grandmother in the project, and he's just gonna wind up in jail or in the project also. But these are curses that people do put on other people's heads. And so if you want to call that a generational curse, I guess it qualifies as that. But that's one I don't like to hear, and people still do it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. Good evening, everybody. I'm just sitting here
Yeah,
listening
good
to
evening, Pastor.
listening to you guys talk about the generational curses. It made me think about what you just brought up, Elder Reggie. Made me think about um, I've had some uh, growing up and being from New Orleans, and being raised in the projects and being around a lot of violence, but also love and violence at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing the violence and seeing the impact on those individuals or the people within my family that was directly affected by the violence and the trajectory of their lives as they grew, um, and then their actions and their reaction to life became violent because of
Mm-hmm.
the violence that was instilled was put upon them because of traumas and things that was not addressed, like Divine Prince was mentioning. It's a real thing, man. It's a real thing. It's a real serious matter. Um, but I think, I mean, in terms of the work, I think that through time though, things have surfaced in that way, and I think our communities has been impacted throughout the country that has been inflicted with these traumas through slavery and through oppression and through subjugation throughout America and throughout any part of this country because of the colonization of it and the way it was colonized. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sad to say, but we're starting to see how it's starting to come forth in our politics. It's starting to come forth in our way of governance and the way of handling the people. We see it in the immigration situation that's going on. It's 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 just very uh, it's very it's work we need to continue to do. I can say that much. And, yeah, it's a real thing,
It's a real
living thing.
thing. Yep.
Yeah.
It's definitely real. Mm-hmm. But Sister Bianca, what prompted you to ask such a question? You have a story or something you'd like to share around that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I have been thinking is just like processing a lot of stuff, just the way how the world and everyone view people. And I think that's just personally due to the things that I am going through as a mom to a 7-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter in high school. And like just transitioning from the north and coming back home to the south, I have like noticed a lot of like enrolling the kids in the school. And I noticed that my son haven't even been in school for a while. And I just feel like a lot of stuff they label these kids really fast. And I think it's like for our black kids and our black generation and stuff. And the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I struggle with is having a label, like something on a child when you don't even, you haven't even gave a child a chance. And it's like they say, oh, your son got ADHD. And that's like one thing that triggered me the most because it seemed like a lot of black kids are being labeled, even black boys. Because when I'm
Mm-hmm.
at work, a lot of my coworkers like, oh yeah, girl, that's normal. Yeah, they said my son got ADHD and they want me to go sign up for the 504 program and get them on medications and just so they could sit still and focus in the school and stuff. And all that just don't sit well with me because there's just too many of us. It's too many same stories I'm hearing, very repetitious about a majority of the black boys are I guess ADHD, and then some of the black girls, they could be smart, but they have this, they have that. So it's almost like I feel like the system is setting the black kids up for failure already at a young age and not really like trying to put them in the government or the system or just anything to make money off of them. Because from my understanding, I think that when you sign papers saying that you want help, it's like the school and stuff get fundings and money off of each child. that they could say that have ADHD. And I just don't know how I feel about all that system. So I just try to keep my kids out the government. I try to keep them out of signing papers, anything where they feel like they could just constantly keep making money by just constantly keep labeling um our black our black children, especially when we already been labeled since slavery and from Africa and everything else. So
No.
But I think we're mixing several
No.
different issues that don't necessarily connect. I have told, again, I've shared this story. I have autism. I have what they used to call Asperger's syndrome. But I didn't know until I was in my 30s. My mother refused to tell me. Now, in her, favor, my mother is a retired educator. My mother went to work. So she did what was necessary to balance out what I was not getting or was unable to adapt to in the public school system. She made sure I got that at home. So I was doing homework, schoolwork, going to the museums, the library, being exposed to activities probably to a greater degree than my peer group who were just, quote unquote, going to school. So I understand the fear and the apprehension, as well as the manipulation as it relates to, labels, certain conditions, as it relates to particularly Black boy children, but Black children in general. But having said that, I think there is a normalization of trauma across the board in this society. And so you know, we say, "Oh, you outgrow that," or we say, "Oh, well, that was such a long time ago." How do you enslave a whole ethnic group of people, or a whole race of people for upwards of 400 years without creating soul ties, soul entanglements, generational curses that now show up like our inability to adapt socially or sometimes intellectually or emotionally because as you suggested the statistics suggest that Black women are the most educated demographic in America, yet we still have some similar complaints across the genders about our anxiety, our fear, our complication, our presumed aggressive or passive aggressiveness. And so I don't think it is just us. I just think that it has been normalized in various communities independently and separately. Whereas racism has been normalized in the white community to a point that 70% of folk who say they're not racist but are actively going along with and participating. So too, I think, and particularly for Black men, there just is not always a safe space created to allow for addressing shadow work, to allow for addressing emotions, feelings, sensibilities, without some sense of judgment, and particularly trauma-based judgment, again, rooted in slavery, where the man had to be the buck, had to be the stallion, had to be, a 10 out of 10, always, every single time, only to be dehumanized, devalued, not given credit for. So it's very challenging, for Black men in particular, I believe, to find the space to do shadow work and address some of the ghosts, if you will, of our family bloodlines and our family dynamics. And it goes beyond just our known relatives. Again, we have a great deal more ancestors that stand with us that we don't know their names, we don't know their stories, but they are fighting for us, pushing for us, assisting us in addressing our endeavors. But often the veil to accessing that is passing through that shadow work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add on to? Well, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
I want to add something along with that, like in terms of like enslavement. Like people, we have to understand that enslavement initially was given was the community that was initially enslaved in this on this continent were native people, and most of that was women and children. So now we're thinking about, like, in terms of you talking about the kids and you talking about the schools, and the schools was what was utilized during the schools. The Sunday schools was utilized to manipulate and to brainwash the minds of these people from their way of living and the way of being that most adults that they knew that was relatives were doing and operating in, be it the Maroons and the Indians that were around in the rebellion that was in the enforcing and doing the things that they needed to do to survive as a community. The women and children was the ones that were easily captured, easily enslaved, easily brought in, and easily taken away. And I think we should consider that in terms of understanding that the institutions that we have that's in place have been put in place for a reason. So I do feel, Bianca, that what you're doing is, I don't have any kids of my own, but I can say that your insight and your hesitance towards that, I think it's rightfully felt and rightfully done. So
I wanted to chime in. Good, excellent point, Joshua, and also what Divine Prince brought up, because they call it the education to prison pipeline, and they start looking at young black boys around third grade, and from third grade they start projecting if a child is going to wind up in prison by the time they're 19, and they're looking at behaviors. They have all these different criterias in place, and they steady checking off the box, checking off the box. But who says that that's the way it has to be? But once again, we have analysts, we have society, we have dollars being marketed. And so certain factors have to fall in place. And that's similar to what you're speaking on, Sister Bianca, in reference to labeling. They're labeling, and from the labeling, you almost putting this in the child's psychic that this is what they're going to be and what they're going to do. And that prophecy sometimes wind up coming true. Not that I think it was the child heart and desire. It just falls into the category of following something that's implanted in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, because to me, I feel like boys, like at that age, just like from the understanding of our ancestry, like where we come from in Africa, like the boys are supposed to be we're not saying like hyperactive. They should know a certain time when they need to settle down. But I just feel like for boys and masculinity energy, they're supposed to be able to have that wildness, like that wild, like, let them go outside, play, let them burn out energy, let them do something with their hands, like building skills and stuff. That's why you do things to keep them occupied and, using their minds and strength. Like that is how they can become, like, have that masculine, become a man, with the wildness, like a lot of testosterone, just everything they need to burn off, or just anything, keep, like, letting them run in the woods, experience things in the woods, or build things, climb trees and stuff. To me, I just feel like when we start talking about putting, just kids on different medications and drugs and stuff, just so they can just sit still, like they just want boys to just sit still all day and just
yeah.
not do nothing, not have them skills or the strength or the ability or using their minds to build like anything that's outside of the school system.
Yeah. Well, the truth be told, the truth be told, there's a fear factor. I experienced it every day. 62 years on this earth. There's a fear factor of black males. It just is. So almost anything we do, we acting out, we over aggressive, we this, we that, is labeling, and comes with that is quick to incarcerate you or take your life. And
Yeah, I seen
so,
it.
what are you saying? You're speaking of a real truthism.
Yeah, I seen a video the other day. It was some security camera had had alerted the police that was at a school of a teenager that had like a Dorito bag in his hand. He and the security camera AI thought it was a gun. I was like, this is so systemic. It's systemic to the point that our technology is even catching and picking up on it and calling it something that is not. It's like it's crazy. It's insane to even think about.
Right. And one last story, and I know we're getting out of time, but his name was Kyron Macy, the football player last year at LSU State University, wide receiver number 2.
Yeah.
He was projected to go to the NFL. The man was driving a green Charger car. He didn't have anything to do with the wreck. Because he was on the scene and stopped, the state police of Louisiana railroaded him into being the cause of the crash, which caused a lady die. But the mental impact from that caused Kyron to commit suicide. He got charged with that for being black. He wasn't even much the cause of the incident. And these are the things that's real. So laboring kids in these elementary schools is for a purpose.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting to
And
the
then
end of
back
our.
to what Divine Prince was saying, I definitely do agree with you. Like when you're saying doing shadow working for like creating a space, and it all starts with you guys too, but creating a space for young men, young boys, and older guys to come together to be able to learn and understand shadow working and having that support system like a guys group, because I know like a lot of ladies, we have a lot of those. Like I see a lot of different groups and support systems, and join this group and we got a good group where you could come and vent and talk about things we all could relate. But I don't see a lot of groups for men or young boys. And I don't know if it's just because a lot of guys are kind of more private, like private about their situations, or don't want to be embarrassed, or kind of carry the weight on their shoulder as they this, but they really have some problems and just don't know how to talk about it, or afraid that their situation or story might get out to other people that they don't want. So I do feel like we do need a lot more of those, like what you're saying, Divine, like for guys and young boys out there to be comfortable to
Yeah, we
join
work.
those groups in society and learn how to do those works in order to help break those generation curse that has been passed down, and also getting the chance to work and learn about their ancestors and stuff too. So
We just gotta move in that direction as men and take courage and be courageous in that for ourselves at first, I would say. And I mean, because I know for myself, I've had to do it, and whenever I'm out in public, I always find myself talking to other men in situations where they either about to do something silly. I'm like, and just I ask them a question just to think about what they're doing, just to have them sit there and think for a moment. And I think that it starts with the individual work, and it starts with the individual digging into yourself and looking at yourself for who you are, and owning, being accountable to yourself. And then we can all be a part of that change, and our demonstration and our day-to-day activity. And I think we got a good group of guys here that with Divine Prince and Elder Reggie, and the members within the source that have been doing those works, and I encourage anyone that's maybe in the area in New Orleans to come out and whenever we have these events, whether it be for Fat Gay Day or whatever it is, come out, meet us, sit down and talk. It's a growing group. We're members. We're getting more and more people getting involved, become more active. So I think it just takes a collective of people with that mindset to approach these things that we all deal with personally, and, and being able to go to a resource for guidance to navigate it.
But we're gonna close out with excellent point, Joshua, and that was well said and well needed. But it's time to close out. Please come out and join us for Day of the Dead Fat Gay celebration. It's gonna be Saturday, November the 1st. That time is 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. in New Orleans, and the location is the Healing Center, 2372 St. Claude Avenue. It's at the corner of St. Roch and St. Claude. Please come out. It's a nice event. I attended last year. I enjoyed the altars. I enjoyed the camaraderie. Please, if you're in the local area or you can make it in town that weekend, please come out and enjoy the festivities. With that I say, lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that bind the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We still have work to do. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Good night, everyone, and we love you all until tomorrow.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Odabo.
Lord,
Ashe.
what kind of monkey shines is you perpetrate?
Who the hell you think he is?
I was powerful thirsty, Mr. Henry, and now I can conjurate more proper like. What you gonna do? 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 What you gonna do?
Ìdòwú gbò ìlà ẹlẹ́sà òkun tíjọ́ ọmọ gánà èṣù lẹ́yìn ìbejì ìyá Reggie bá rìn o Reggie bá ṣeré arẹ́dùngbéra Ìdòwú ẹsẹ̀rú ìbejì àbíyàn lera wọn ni ọmọríjà ó bá wọn dókun ẹ̀bá ọ̀nà ẹni Ìdòwú pa láyọ̀ ẹ̀pà ẹni bá pọ̀ ọmọ gánà ọmọ ọba ló pa Àjíbọ́ba jẹun Àjíbájòyè ìṣeré o Ìdòwú ògbó àjíkan lẹ́sà òkun síjọ́ ọmọ gánà Ìdòwú ògbó ìlà ẹlẹ́sà òkun síjọ́ ọmọ gánà èṣù lẹ́yìn ìbejì ìyá Reggie bá rìn o Reggie bá ṣeré arẹ́dùngbéra.
Allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yet I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Oh, do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Mitch, you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, Assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside." I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. We are the children of the ancestors that weren't punk bitches.